Welcome to Project Vanguard Podcast, home of the community of veterans in energy, where we explore the journeys of veterans leading in energy. We're building American energy dominance through an all-of-the-above approach, where energy security is national security. And our mission is to double the amount of veterans working in the energy industry. I'm your host, Kevin Doffing. My guest this week is Marcy Bauer, an Army veteran and Senior Vice President at EVgo, one of the nation's leading public fast charging networks. We dug into what's really happening in EV charging beyond the headlines, how charging speeds have jumped up, reducing charging times from under an hour to just minutes, and why the number of EVs on the road is still outpacing the public chargers needed to serve them. Marcy also shares how her time in military intelligence led her to the energy industry, the lessons she carried from deployments to Kuwait, and why veterans' adaptability and operations mindset fit perfectly into this new energy mission. If you care about national security, jobs, and the future of American transportation, this one's for you. Let's get into it. All right, Marcy, thanks for making time today.
Thank you, Kevin.
So I've been looking forward to this. What's new in your world? Like, a lot of things have changed over the past year, right, in the EV space. And by the way, tell everybody what you do in your day life.
In my daily life, just sort of helping transform the face of transportation against a 100-year fuel monopoly.
Small life goals.
No big deal. No big deal. So, but yeah, I mean, truly, jokes aside, just trying to get public fast charging out there as quickly as possible and sustaining that infrastructure in a way that, EV drivers can rely on it and use it where they're planning to go anyway. And, a seamless experience for them, essentially.
So go back. I mean, I remember when Tesla started divesting of all this, right? They had the supercharged network and then they killed the entire team corporately, killed their careers, then asked some of them to come back. And it was just this, it was an early preview of what Doge would look like. Get rid of everyone. Wait a second. We changed our mind. Some of you were necessary. Come back. Wait, some of you already got jobs. Oh no. What was that like? What other big tentpole items have happened in the last year?
Yeah, I mean, as another company deploying and maintaining owned and operated EV charging equipment, for us, that represented an opportunity directly. But, we recognize too that for the industry, it's quite concerning.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, they did hire a fair number back and they are continuing to deploy alongside us and other operators in the space as well. But at the end of the day, what we do is deploy EV charging for public use as quickly as we possibly can. And so nothing changed. It just opened up, additional opportunity to jump on the fly. On the people side, too, there were a lot of people, as you mentioned, looking for work, and we were able to scoop up really strong talent from that pool as well. So, yeah, it was just kind of a wild roller coaster ride for a bit. But the situation that the industry was facing at the time and continues to face today is there are more EVs on the road than there are public fast chargers to serve them in terms of what's needed, that ratio of what's needed. And that continues to be true today. So we're just kind of focusing on that.
Okay. So I used to have conversations like the energy transition folks like Phillips 66, right? They've got a bunch of, gas stations in their portfolio. And my thought was always, we're trying to do this one-to-one replacement of how do we put fast chargers at the corner store or the bodega? And fuel's a loss leader for them anyway, right? They're making money on food. So as somebody who does have one, I've rarely ever used public charging. Now mine's a hybrid. So if I'm going on a road trip, I don't use it. But I mean, how has the user engagement for fueling, in this case, electrons versus molecules, how has that shifted? I know that there's a longer lead time. So a Whole Foods and more commercial opportunities for big box stores and things like that make a lot of sense for hey, I'm just want to leave this plugged in for 45 minutes. Let me go run some errands, as opposed to let me run in, get a Snickers and a Coke and get back on the road.
Yeah. I'm going to update your narrative just a little bit.
Yeah, no. I'm not a bright guy. I was in the infantry, poke away.
Yeah. So what you're describing was very much the reality, a couple of years ago, where the fastest charging was maybe 150 kilowatts. And the battery size was such that to get from, maybe 0 or 20% state of charge to 80% state of charge, it would take that sort of 30, 45-minute session.
Mhm.
Plenty of people still have that experience with larger and larger batteries, or they want to go past 80% when the charging speed tends to slow down on the vehicle side. The vehicle says, all right, slow down. We got to protect the battery a little bit. There are edge cases of people where they're spending 30, 45 minutes charging their vehicle, but the charging speeds have increased both on the charger side and the vehicle side. So it's not gas station time. It's still maybe like go in, use the bathroom, grab a coffee, poke around your phone for a little bit,
Check your emails.
check your emails, or if you wish, go into the Whole Foods, grab some groceries at wide profile. So it'll fit either, and that's where we try to be. We try to be in all of those places that people have a 15 to 25, 30-minute need, and there's amenities there to
Mhm.
fill that need while they're filling up their vehicle.
No, it's interesting. So what is kind of like the next stage for, y'all at EVgo? Like, what does that look like? Is it more of the same and just continuing to scale, or is it there's a shift or step function change?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of the same of what we're doing today, which means our network is still transforming because we've been in the game for so long. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary, which in dog years, in clean transportation, industry dog years, that's a lifetime practically. So we still have legacy fleet that we're upgrading and updating and turning over. And so that's part of the mix as well. But everything we've been deploying is the 350 kilowatt standard, which an increasing number of vehicles can take as well. So now we've got that parity on the charger side and the vehicle side for the fastest possible charging experience. Of course, batteries are getting bigger or had gotten bigger. And so, that offsets a little bit. It doesn't get us to that 5-minute mythical, I think we can all agree is a little bit mythical gas
Yeah.
station experience. It's never 5 minutes. So it's still in that zone, but it's not quite, to that exact same space. Most people don't really enjoy the gas station experience anyway. So, you're going in and grabbing a Starbucks, not to give them free for free marketing here. And there's endless examples like that. So, you're getting out, you're stretching your legs, you're grabbing your coffee, you're perusing the shelves, you're getting back in your vehicle with a full enough charge and continuing on your way.
Thanks for educating me on that because I have not kept up with it at all.
Oh, I like to talk about this stuff a little bit.
What do you find is the most like, I don't want to say the stupidest. What's the thing you correct the most in these
Oh,
conversations?
gosh. I mean, it just takes me back to the earlier days when we'd go to these, zoning board meetings to try and get it permitted use. And, we would be encountering people who were confused and concerned about the waves and the noise coming off of these electrical vehicle charging stations. So that's the early days. More recently, it's not quite that level. Thankfully, I think the awareness has come up a bit, but there is still lack of understanding as to what drives the charging speed. So not everyone fully understands that their car is as much of a limiting factor as the charger in terms of how fast their experience will be during the charging session. So there's a bit of that. There's people, it's front and center for them in a different way than it was with ICE vehicles, where if you drive faster, you will burn through your range faster. It's the same with a gas car.
Right.
If you're driving 70 miles
Yeah.
an hour down the road, you're going to burn through fuel faster, but you don't see it the same way. So it's a little bit invisible to you. And because it's less invisible to an EV driver, there might be a little bit of surprise around that. Maybe it gets them to drive more safely.
Speaking of surviving, take me back to when you went into the military. What kind of got you into that, mindset of like, what I'd like to do for an extended period of time per the needs of the army?
Yeah, for me, it was not an expected thing. So I had, service in the grandparent generation, but not more recent
Mhm.
than that. And it wasn't, I didn't know that grandparent. He died when I was very young. So it wasn't in our sort of daily familial existence. And so to that extent, it was also a kind of a surprising thing to do. That was a draw for me, just kind of do something a little unexpected. But, I grew up in a small suburban town, really rural adjacent town, and I wanted to experience something different geographically, different perspectives, different lived experiences. And obviously,
Mhm.
this is a pretty good way to do it. Of course I can't gloss over the fact that it pays for school as well. That was another big draw. But yeah, just the
Yeah.
adventure, the service, the unexpected nature of it, even to myself, I didn't really know what to expect because I didn't grow up hearing all sorts of stories from immediate family members about what it's like. So yeah, the whole thing, I just wanted to zig or zag, I guess.
Okay. And so how did you choose branch everything? Like, how did that decision making go down?
Well, I think as you don't really get to choose that. You get to,
Prep.
ask nicely what you'd like for your top few choices. I did actually get my top choice, which was nice. So I went into service in the Military Intelligence Corps, and that for me probably was closer to on brand. I mean, it's kind of constantly solving puzzles and just working in that, teasing apart the analytics part of it. That was a
Mhm.
big draw. Also appealed to me that in the era that I was in, we had, military intelligence units even up to the battalion level. I think different periods of time in military history, it's kind of yo-yoed where it's been a separate unit that gets then pieced out and attached, or it's just embedded within combat arms, directly attached in those units. And the era that I was in, it was a separate battalion and an armor brigade. So that was the dynamic. But I liked that too, because you got all this different exposure to other branches in the course of your work.
Yeah, our intel guy was just embedded with us
Yeah.
at the battalion level.
Yep. It's very different experiences for Intel soldiers over time.
Yeah.
The structure, the approach to that has changed.
Yeah. No, I mean, they did a great job because, I mean, when we were in Ramadi, I mean, they were able to kind of like see and engage with, the shakes that we could actually like get in with. And then that's kind of the whole Sunni awakening started to really take off. And that's when we stabilized the region and good things happened.
Yes.
And then 2 years later, ISIS wiped out all those gains.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Those things are heartbreaking, but those structural shifts do come on the back of lessons learned and some pretty hard ones. From the Vietnam era, there are horror stories that we were raised up in my onboarding into military intelligence. Like, you get just an endless onslaught of military intelligence
What could happen
failures.
during one of their holidays?
Right. Well, I mean, that and dozens more examples of, because of the way the units were structured,
Mhm.
the intelligence may have been known, but unshareable. And that's devastating because I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
person who really puts myself in the situation of the story I'm being told. I'm imagining myself the combat arms leader being told after the fact that certain things were known, right? And so horrific way to learn a lesson, but lesson learned
Yeah.
nonetheless. So I came through in an
Yeah.
era where I think we were still kind of working our way towards that full embedding. But there's pros and cons, right? We were also learning the counter lessons of when you fully embed, then you wind up with linguists who maybe aren't getting the language training they need because they're running a range, or doing litter patrol or
Yeah.
whatever it is that needs to be done. That's the trade-off, and that's a pretty terrible trade-off when you have a skill
Mhm.
that's that important and expensive to deliver. You want that person to know know what the heck they're hearing and saying.
What made you decide, "All right, this has been fun, but I've had enough. I'm ready for the next thing."
Yeah, so I kinda caught the environmental bug on a training show of force deployment to Kuwait. I mean, it was building before that too, but I saw a lot of things there that we were doing, that they were doing, that were the effects of what had been done, that there were the effects of essentially an oil war. And, that started to really build up the interest for me. And I did poke around different elements of the Army and other branches too, to see if there was a way to
Mhm.
explore that. At that time, and I think even today, a lot of that had been contracted out or was in the process of being contracted out. So your only way into that was as a contractor or as maybe a warrant officer, which wasn't available to me at the time. And that was it. And then you were kind of stuck where you were, where you lateraled
Mhm.
over. And so that started to kind of make me realize I'm not sure I can do a career in this because I really feel quite passionate about this other area, and there's no way to explore that fully in the Army. I also then had a child, which plenty of people do and continue to serve. Both my husband and I were in the Army as well, and, there's logistics involved in that, and so it's kind of a know thyself situation. I've seen plenty of people do that well, raise a family in the military, plenty of people, but knowing me. I don't need any extra challenge. I needed to, be able to be physically around more if I could.
So, what was it like getting out at that point? You kind of knew what you wanted to do when you grew up, but there's a gap between what I'm doing now, you're starting a family, and there's this thing I'm interested in, but how do I even get into that? Where do I
Grad
get into
school.
that? I mean, that's a great answer. I mean, I think that there's a lot of vets that just, I'm going to get out, I'm just going to figure it out. And I was talking with one of our guys who's been on the podcast, Tim Saban, and, he's doing grad school while he's still finishing up as an Osprey pilot. And, he's like, my biggest piece of advice is like, just take a knee, go to school. He's like, I was trying to cram a 2-year program to like a year while I'm still serving, while I'm transitioning out, while I'm trying to, it's like, just go reset.
Yeah.
Was that your experience with grad school?
So my husband did what you just described, and so I got to observe that, and he also transitioned into being stay-at-home parent. So he had this trifecta overlap where he was in grad school while in the service, then we had our kid, so then he got out and was still doing grad school work, and it looked really hard. So I think you mentioned in the last podcast this stop loss era. That was my era. So I was on stop
Oh,
loss for a
yeah, that
bit,
was fun.
for about 9 months, I would say. So I could have, I suppose, layered in grad school classes during that time. We had our plan to go back to grad school together and sync together. We both got into our schools and everything was great. And then stop loss hit. And then, my university wouldn't hold my spot and so on and so forth. You've heard it. And there are worse. I mean, we had people in my unit that we were pulling back, from IRR. Yeah. So they had full-time jobs that paid more. They had set up their lives around that scenario with their families. So it was, pulling people back in under those circumstances was challenging to see and have to do, essentially. The stop loss lifted. I was able to get out at that point. We were able to resync our grad school journey from there on out. And so that's kind of what led to my decisions was lack of option, essentially. Like I needed
Hey,
to
you gotta do
focus
what you gotta
on,
do.
yeah, exactly.
Well, so how did you end up with EVgo? Was that, one of the first steps out? Were there intermediary steps? How'd you end up where you are today?
So I landed in environmental health for about 5 years, and that was really interesting experience because I think our entire staff was female, and that was a first for me. That was, I mean, polar opposite, not just a first, but the polar opposite
Oh, that's not
experience.
what the Army was like for you? That's weird.
No.
Huh. Huh.
No.
That wasn't my
Uh,
experience in the infantry.
I know. So that was different, and the just even getting into that was interesting. I ran into a lot of misconceptions about what veterans are like in the workforce, and so in my interviewing experience, it was a lot of probing at how rigid I was gonna be and how, like, gruff I was gonna
Yeah.
be. And it was fun to sort of, expand their perspectives on the fact that, yeah, there's discipline, but there's adaptability
Right. Dispel the
for
myth.
days, right?
Well, I will say my biggest fear when I left service, because all I'd been around was a bunch of guys in combat, I was like, man, I am going to say the wrong thing the first time I work with a woman. I'm screwed because I can't say what I've been saying because, like, that's not fit for any human consumption of what we would talk about in combat, men or women. No one should hear the
No one
filth
really
that
should. It
happens.
shouldn't. Yeah, it's
No,
not.
my kids definitely shouldn't.
Guilty. Yeah. Guilty myself as well, but we're adaptable too, right? You know this. We can adjust to our environment. We have to. That's part of the training. And you do it quickly and sometimes to the extreme. The environmental shift will be quite extreme sometimes. So that was a fun set of lessons to teach my coworkers and put to use myself. But it was interesting. The types of interpersonal dynamics was just very different. So I did have to test my adaptability skills in a different way. But I also got to set up a brand new environmental health division from scratch and run it and expand it. And that was super fun. And it put my grad school training and previous training to use immediately and thoroughly. So from there, moved into clean transportation. So it was a little, it's a pit stop, but still totally in line with the environmental sphere.
Yeah. And I think that, like, the big thing that gets overlooked in the industry is like a lot of the renewable stuff was actually started in the 70s during OPEC oil crisis. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We can't have our national security tied to something that we cannot control, which is the same thing that the British thought when they were like, you want us to get off of coal where we have all this, domestic production, and you want us to go to oil just because the ships are faster and can go farther, which ended up being the right decision, but create a lot of liabilities in their political and, national security. The 70s was the same thing under Carter and everybody else. Like, hey, we need to diversify and not be so reliant on what's essentially one region. And then the environmental movement picked it up. The net zero argument was won there. But then like 5 or 10 years ago, I feel like that argument had been won. We really need to focus on at scale, scalability, economics, and workforce. I mean, I feel like that's where we're at right now on everything. Is like, great. It's clean. Cool. How many jobs can you make? How much is it going to cost? Let's get to work.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it still doesn't feel totally won to any of us because we're back to arguing about things that are, I think, quite distracting. I learned this
Say more.
probably 15 years ago. I think I made some, not enemies, but like I didn't make
Oh,
some
all right. Let's
friends.
name names.
No,
Name some names.
it was like a thinky, talky kind of a breakfast deal around energy, right? So it sounds like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's super engaging, and I'm being very hyperbolic when I say made enemies, but what I said was, I think we're making a mistake by putting everything into the environmental basket of argumentation around this
Oh, yeah.
because it is not winnable. Like, it just, these models are so long term and so sciency that people like, there's just, we're never going to have the threshold or the breakthrough that we need for mass understanding and acceptance of this. It's too nuanced. It's too removed from people's daily lives.
Well, it's a good argument for certain people. It's not a great argument for most people.
Right, exactly. As true as it is. And that's the thing. It's really, if you're, especially if you're a scientist, which my undergrad was molecular biology. So I have mad respect for that and I
Oh,
relate to it
geez.
and I can even still kind of read some of it and understand some of it. I have a lot of respect for it, but part of what I went into the military for was to engage in and absorb all different perspectives. And, it taught me that that's not, something like that's just not going to work. It's not going to work to the scale that you need. And so what will, fill in the gaps is, hey, like we can all agree we want national security, right? Hey, we can all agree we'd like
Right.
to be able to breathe air that's not poisoning us and our kids. Like that feels, I mean, it's, yeah, technically environmental, but it's not like on the scale of climate change environmental, which, for the record, I personally totally believe in, but the scale of it is so huge and the intricacy of the modeling is so intense that for a lot of people, it's just out of reach, right? But clean air, I'd like to breathe clean air. Clean water, I'm a fan. We're all fans of drinking water that doesn't make
Yeah.
us sick, right? Jobs,
Yeah.
big fan of
It's
jobs.
like in combat when you're like, let's defeat terrorism. It's like, what is that? I agree with you. But what does that mean to you? And what do I do right now to defeat terrorism
Yeah.
when I gotta go on a patrol in 30 minutes and like half my guys have on 3 hours of sleep and 2 rippets and, what do you want me to do right now?
In my life today, whether it's this argument or just anything else, prioritization discussions, high minded discussions about how we prioritize, I always bring it back to, is this actionable? That's the test. That's the litmus test. Is what we've just talked about actionable? If it's not actionable yet, we're not there yet. It's still useful. Maybe it's moving the needle towards being actionable. But if it isn't, then there's more work to do to get it there so that we can all engage in however we need to engage to get shit done. Can I
Yeah.
say that? We
No, I
didn't
mean,
cover that beforehand.
oh,
I've
shit.
been
Yeah.
censoring myself quite heavily.
No, you're good. You're good. We just
Okay.
like to sprinkle it in there. Just a
Okay,
little
good.
bit of swearing, just to like keep the authenticity.
Got it.
I mean, like, I just think that you just gotta keep it real on things that really matter to people. So, I mean, like, I remember I got interviewed by something and they're like, "We're trying to figure out how to talk to middle America." And I'm like, "Well, first thing, like, stop talking about climate change." They're like, "Why is that?" I'm like, "Well, if you have a hole in your roof, you don't care about a hole in the ozone layer. It's about priorities. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, all that matters is affordability and taking care of your kids. And what might happen in 30 years isn't important considering they're trying to just get through this week. So, like, they might care, they might not, but honestly, like, they don't have time and energy to do anything about it other than the immediate thing. But if you can give them a job, a better paying job, a consistent job, and you can make things cheaper for them, and electricity goes into everything. So you want to cool inflation? Cheaper electricity is going to help that. That's always been my point is like whether you believe in climate change or not, or you want to focus on the environment or not, we can get people to just do good things for people by, like what you're saying, like, what are you going to do next? Let's just focus on that for right now.
Yeah.
And I'm in Houston. I owned an oil and gas company. Like, trust me, I was saying all above when it wasn't popular with either side of the aisle friend I had, right? Like I was
Yeah.
either a
Yeah.
greenie weenie or I was a fossil loving, MAGA or before whatever MAGA was, Tea Party, I guess, like, yeah. Yeah. Jobs, economy, property rights. Let's just go. Let's win, beat China.
Yeah, getting into clean transportation for me in the beginning was or electric vehicles specifically, because I didn't really finish my post-military transition completely. I did environmental health for 5 years, and then I went really into clean transportation very broadly, so it included a lot of things that I had mixed feelings about too, just a lot of fuels and techs that are sort of technically green, but maybe not as exciting or maybe didn't have, to me, the longest term viability for scale and to even be all that helpful for the environment without some major changes. But EVs really lit me up. At the time that I went into it, there were, I think, 3 EVs available. You know, I felt very strongly that I was basically betting on this industry innovating its way into having broader appeal, which it has done. There's 100 plus models out, makes and models out now. It's not fully there yet. We still need more affordable options to hit, and they're coming. But that was it. So I was betting a lot of instinct on this industry aligning with my values and my observation of what's really needed to move the needle, which is if you're going to reach middle America or the rest of America, not just the tech heads and the people with cash in their pocket to burn because they want the latest tech in their driveway of their second house, you know, you need more, right? And so I saw it. I saw the vision that was coming and placed a bet, placed my professional bet on it.
So let me ask you before we start to wrap up. I'm always curious, like, especially on the EV front, because like it feels like there's a perspective inside of America that is not shared by the rest of the world, right? Because there's just cheap EVs flooding the market. We know that China sees this as like the next thing that they can market that they can corner. The CEO of Ford is like, I've never seen production ramp and like develop this good, this fast anywhere in the world on manufacturing. What's the global outlook on, the EVs right now?
It's incredibly strong globally. We're the ones that are behind. I mean, it couldn't be stronger globally.
What is it, like 40% of market share of new vehicle sales are EVs or something higher?
Yeah, it's very high. In some countries, it's higher than that even. Like, small, homogenous, very strong central government type countries, admittedly. But we're just so far behind already. We're behind in so many ways. There's the tech, the production, the policy underpinning, all of it. But like just in my world, I kind of alluded to at the beginning, I guess if we're going to wrap it up with the bow, come full circle or what have you, there is not enough public fast charging right now to serve the EVs that are on the road right now. We didn't really get to this, but there's a lot of hand wringing and pearl clutching around headlines and policy shifts, and then the headlines that result from those policy shifts. And the headlines, of course, never provide the nuance that actually tells the whole truth of the story. Which so there'll be 3 more quarters at least, or maybe 4 more quarters of those sorts of very clickbaity headlines about how the EV adoption is crashing, blah blah blah, because a lot of that demand is pulled forward. There's nuance. The tax credit expired, so that everyone who was going to decide next quarter to buy their car decided this quarter to buy their car, and then there's like a little bit of a lag. All that stuff is the nuance that's in the actual articles below the clickbaity headline. But the truth of it is we're building as fast as we can, and we're still behind the existing electric vehicles in operation. And the ratio is continuing to widen, even as
Yeah.
fast as we're building. So there's that fact, and then there's the throughput, like the use of the network is outpacing EV adoption as well. So like the EVs on the road, there's more of them and they're using public charging more. Like that's a huge opportunity. It's a great business case type, discussion. But, it's not the best experience for the EV drivers. We need to give them we need to give them more charging opportunities. And so, I guess if I wanted to leave people with one thing, it's just please try to read below the clickbait headline
Yeah.
on these things, especially for the next few quarters, because all the industries in clean energy right now are experiencing that. Anytime you have a big policy upheaval, it's a lot of like really freaked out headlines and pearl clutching and fear. And then things tend to pendulum swing or stabilize after that. So
Yeah. So, I mean, like, just think back even like 10 years as you were first getting in, there's 3 cars on the road. And if you saw, like, hey, this is how many EVs were sold this quarter, would you even believe that back then? In
yes, I
2025,
told you I made the
this much.
bet.
Oh, okay. So you're like, I'm cashing in.
I'm a believer. Um, Look, here's the thing. I drove one, right? I didn't own one right away, by the way, because we're a weird family. We had 3 drivers on 1 car for years. And in the beginning, your one EV option or your, one of 3 EV options were a 100-mile range Leaf or a totally unaffordable Tesla. And so we were out, right? We had a plug-in hybrid and we had 3 drivers on that one plug-in hybrid and we hardly drove it. So that's not the
Mhm.
normal American family experience. Most American households have 2 cars in the driveway, but I drove them, and that was it. Like it's just better. It's just better tech. It's better, it's cleaner, it's safer, it's more secure, it supports more domestic energy production and use. To me, it was a no-brainer. So all we needed was battery tech to ramp with it, which I could see it was coming along. So that was it. I
Mhm.
was in.
Nice. Well, so, Marcy, as we wrap up, what is your advice for veterans that are interested in a career on the EV side of the market or just coming out of the service and, is it in the operations side? Is it something else? Is it going to school? Like, what are your thoughts around advice for veterans looking at the space?
I mean, I tend to see us a little bit more shiny on the operational side just because of the types of experiences we tend to bring. But honestly, the adaptability piece I keep coming back to is where it's at. I mean, I think, if the interest is there and the need is there, I mean, we're a see a need, fill a need kind of bunch, right? So, the need's there. So I would say, I guess I would say make a plan, continue to be adaptable. That plan may have to shift because the dynamics in the
Yeah.
different industries shift. Again, that's one of our superpowers anyway. So just sort of keep that superpower, dusted off and ready. The networking piece is huge. I mean, I think what you're doing here is really, really important, and informal versions and variations of this are happening all over the place. So like more and more of that, just connecting people up with each other and, putting a spotlight on those superpowers that veterans will bring to the workforce, I think continues to be important and impactful. It's effective. It tends to be like EV adoption is. Once you have 1 or 2 in your neighborhood, then suddenly you have 10 and 12. Like that's, once you have 1 or 2 veterans in your operations, it's not long before it's like, "Oh, these guys are really good at this."
We have a lot of angry coffee drinkers here. What is going on?
Well, so yeah, there will certainly be more colorful language around the water cooler. One of the things I transitioned into a new role in January at this company. I've been at EVgo over 10 years, sort of making my way through operations essentially. Transitioned into a new role in operations in January. They do these little welcome things. So I had my moment with them where they get to ask you questions and it's like, what's your favorite guilty pleasure food? And, just like this normal sort of get to know you stuff. And then one of my team members who I'd been working adjacent to for years gave a multiple choice question that I will never forget. He said, "In an average day, how many times do you swear? Is it 50 to 100, 100 to 150, or more than 150 times?" So that was my introduction to the team via this person who had been working alongside me for years. So
Below 50 is not even an option.
it's not even an option. It's off the table. And honestly, the 50 to 100 was a total sandbag too. So
That's awesome. Well, Marcy, listen, this has been fun. I really appreciate it, making the time, coming in. I hope that you can make it out to that North Carolina event we have coming up at Cypress Creek. But no, this has been fun.
Yeah, I've been a fan, been listening to your podcast sessions, and I love the work that you're doing here. I think I've been getting a lot out of it myself, even though I'm already in the industry. It's definitely pulled me into just being more active to invite other veterans to experience the joy that is transforming the face of energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And I mean, the reason we've been able to grow so fast is because of people like you, because it's not a hard sell. Hey, would you like to expand your professional network while hanging out with people that you really like hanging out with? Oh, great. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Well, thanks again, Marcy. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for tuning in to the Project Vanguard podcast. If this episode sparked something for you, share it with someone who's ready to think differently, whether it's about an all-the-above energy approach, how energy security is national security, or the veteran workforce in our industry. If you believe what we're building, a quick review goes a long way. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, keep up the fire.